Let's talk about the all-new Cadillac Lyriq, which for many of us, there's actually several don't be fooled subjects on this one. When you're gonna get one if you order now, the price, the power and the specs, and just general impressions of the vehicle and drive impressions. So I want to go through all that because I think it's extremely important. And I do want to wrap a little bit of news into this, of course, because that's just what I do. I'm Johnny from Johnny's Car Care and Reviews, and I'm always here to help. So let's just get straight to the helping, put the pedal to the metal. First of all, let's talk about the design. The Lyriq has an incredible design. I saw it in person and was actually quite a bit more impressed with it seeing it in person. But does it just look like another Cadillac? Well, yes, and is that necessarily a bad thing? Well, it depends who you ask. So Ford's CEO was doing an interview for Newsweek. So this is Jim Farley doing an interview with Newsweek. And to quote him, he says, "We wouldn't do the product that Cadillac is showing." He's talking about the Lyriq, by the way. Back to the quote, "We wouldn't do it at all," Farley said. "Nothing against them, it just doesn't fit our brand. It's not far enough. It has a traditional hood, looks a lot like an ICE product. We want people to feel that electric excitement." And well, end of quote. Well, I can say I saw it in person and yes, it looks absolutely like another Cadillac SUV. Porsche, size-wise, looks like a Porsche Macan, sorry. So this is fitting in with other luxury SUVs. Dimensions wise, it does not stray far away from the Cadillac design, and it doesn't stray that far away from really any current normal EV's specs. So let's talk about those specs because they're pretty important and they're actually pretty interesting. Now let's just get into one of the most important specs to me and to a lot of people. How fast does it accelerate? Well, does it in 5.7 seconds, but don't be fooled here. The rear wheel drive version of the Lyriq has less power and more autonomy than the all-wheel drive version. So we'll talk about those power specs in just a moment, but do keep in mind that it's only the rear wheel drive. This is the first don't be fooled. They'll be spread out throughout the entire video, but the first don't be fooled subject is that it accelerates to 60 miles per hour or 100 kilometers an hour in 5.7 seconds. Now that to these standards these days seems on somewhat the slow end, and it is. However, do keep in mind that all EVs with their electric motors and their 100% torque instantly, it's gonna actually feel quite fast. I know some people who have a Mach-E rear wheel drive, extended battery, so a little faster, of course, than just the regular battery. And well, they're convinced that they're faster than, a current Ford GT automatic, which is 0 to 60 or 100 kilometers an hour in 4 seconds. And they're sitting right around 5.5, 5.6 seconds. So the instant torque of these electric motors, don't be fooled, they are very quick. Now, also don't be fooled, this is a Cadillac. Some are just gonna be, throwing down in the reviews that comfort is gonna be a huge plus of this vehicle. The interior comfort, yes, I must agree, it is actually very comfortable. However, Cadillac, since the CTS-V came out in 2009, started pushing crazy numbers on the Nuremberg Dork Ring. So they just started building these into, nerd machines. Fantastic engineering and research going into the suspensions in regards to being fast on a track. However, generally across the board, they lost some comfort. And even, Car and Driver, that says one of their high points is absolutely the comfort. Later on in the article, you don't want to be fooled here, later on they say that it's a little rough. Well, not a little rough, they say it's rough over the potholes. To quote Car and Driver directly, one of the lows they put was not as quick as rival EVs. Infotainment menus are confusing. Ride can be harsh over potholes. However, the verdict was that Cadillac's first stab at an EV SUV forgoes performance in favor of luxury and comfort. So I just want to really discern the difference. I guess comfort, that's a pretty widespread term. And they too are talking about comfort on the interior of the cabin. And they should specify no comfort in the front trunk because, well, that's an empty space. That's not a space like on the Mach-E where you'll get all sorts of cargo volume up in the front, at least not the model that I put my hands on. But however, there are some really positive specs to this. Now, 5.9 seconds, even though that's not that fast, it is going to feel fast. Car and Driver got that down to 5.7 seconds based on their test. Car and Driver always seems to be the best gang for reviewing vehicles and getting the most out of their performance. Now, another don't be fooled section is that there was a little news article, actually several of them that came out. China, they were talking about, Chinese media were talking about this vehicle and said it would have 545 horsepower in the all-wheel drive model. And it's actually 500 horsepower for our market. We'll have to find out. And I don't really care what's going to go on with their market. But on our end, if you do get the all-wheel drive, you're getting 500 horsepower and you're getting 450 pound-feet of torque. Also, the Chinese market said that it was much more torque than that. It was more around the low 500s. So do keep in mind that will bring that 0 to 60 acceleration down. I would suspect that it's going to get at least half a second, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if it even shaves a full second, probably down to about 4.7 to 4.9 seconds. Hoping it'll be faster, but we'll just have to wait and see. This is a relatively heavy vehicle. So I don't know if we're going to call this the Champ, but this boxer comes in at 5,610 pounds or 2,545 kilograms. So that's relatively heavy. It does have an interesting battery system. It's 12 modules. So just to give you an idea, 12 modules means there's, in a way, it looks like one big battery platform, and it is one big battery platform, but there's 12 battery units in each of those. If you look at Geely and what they're claiming they're going to come out with, that huge van, they're claiming to have one battery unit, so just one in total, and get 600 miles. So that may be the future, but we'll have to wait and see if that is the safe and intelligent way of doing things, because at least with these modules, when you've got 12 battery modules, if one goes bad, you can just swap it out. I've actually seen it done before, and it happened on a Mach-E that had been damaged due to a bit of a vehicle accident. That platform got pinned up by a rock or a sidewalk, something concrete and hard underneath it. But what are we getting out of these 12 units? Well, if you do go with the rear wheel drive, you're looking at 340 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. I would highly recommend getting the all-wheel drive model because they're only charging $2,000 US. So the base is at $62,995, and at $64,995, you get the all-wheel drive model with all sorts of extra power. Now, do keep in mind, this hasn't been released, but don't be fooled. You're probably going to lose somewhere between 20 to 30 miles for going all-wheel drive. So if having the most autonomy possible is important for you, go with the rear-wheel drive, but do realize you're losing out on acceleration and you're losing out on power. Now, what's interesting is these batteries, you do not want to be charging them. The Cadillac Lyriq is not made to charge off your 110 volt home outlet, because you're going to get 3.5 miles per hour. So when you're trying to recharge 318 miles at that speed, you've got a really long charge time. Now, if you're on the 240 volt on, a smaller home charger that runs off 240 volts, well, that's the 11.5 kilowatt AC, 31 miles per hour. And if you do go and spend extra and get a 19.2 kilowatt AC charger, 240 volt box, that's going to be a pretty big charger, you're looking at 52 kilowatts an hour. Now, when you're recharging 312 kilowatts, you'll probably want to go with that 52 kilowatt on the fast chargers. So these are not available at home. These are on the sides of highways. You stop when you've been driving for a while. And if you're on the DC fast charge, in 10 minutes, you can get up to 76 miles of charge. So that is pretty good. And if you're on that for 30 minutes, you're going to get 195 miles back. So that is actually really excellent. So 30 minutes and you're getting back almost 200 miles out of the 318 miles. But do keep in mind, it is best to charge your battery. Don't let it go beneath 15%, and ideally keep it between the 15 to 80% range, because that's one of the downsides of lithium ion, is that you do need to not fast charge all the time, and you especially need to not be constantly topping off or letting your battery go beneath 15%. So that's an important don't be fooled. All these stats sheets make you think that it's just hunky-dory to just fast charge all the time, and there should be a little asterisk saying don't do this all that often. Don't do this on a daily basis. Now let's talk about exterior dimensions for the Cadillac Lyriq. What do we got? A wheelbase. It's coming in at 121.8 inches or 3,094 millimeters. In length in inches, 196.7 inches or 4,996 millimeters. Your width in inches, you're looking at 77.8, or in millimeters, 1,977 millimeters. In height, you've got 63.9 inches, and in millimeters, that's 1,623. So basically, what are you looking at so far? You're looking at a vehicle that is very much like a Porsche Macan. It's kind of typically sized to, let's say, a Cadillac XT4, but with a lower roof. Now the curb weight, a little heavy at 5,610 pounds, 2,545 kilograms, but that's sort of a must of electric vehicles, and it's sort of the downfall of electric vehicles, because the more autonomy you have currently, that means the bigger the battery, and the bigger the battery, the higher the weight goes up, because those are high weight numbers. Just to give you an idea, a plug-in Escape 2022 plug-in Escape comes in at about 3,800 pounds, and a traditional gas version comes in at about 3,500 pounds. So definitely a good amount of weight for the Cadillac's big 100 kilowatt battery. Now inside, you're gonna get decent interior dimensions. I sat in it. I was actually pretty impressed with the front and the rear. I was very comfortable in the vehicle. Just to give you some quick numbers, front headroom in inches, 38.6 inches, 980 millimeters. Front legroom, 41.4 inches or 1,052 millimeters. Front shoulder room in inches, 58.9 inches, 1,497 millimeters. Front hip room, you're looking at 56.5 inches or 1,436 millimeters. And passenger volume, cubic feet, you've got 105 cubic feet or 2,976 liters. Now in the cargo space was also very acceptable. You've got cargo volume behind first row seats. So that's with the second row seats, the kids seats, down, you're actually getting 68 cubic feet, or in liters, 1,723 liters. And cargo volume behind second row seats, meaning your regular driving position, as if you had either adults or kids in the second row, you're looking at 28 cubic feet and 793 liters. So the back could have a little bit more space, not a major issue, but really the big issue here is that you don't have a frunk like you do on most vehicles, or at least not the one I put my hands on. And I did say earlier that it was similar in size to the XT4. I'm sorry, that's the XT5, but it does have a lower roof. So you will notice that in its styling. But once you sit in it, I didn't feel like this was missing any room whatsoever. Now, for the final part of this video, I really want to do a proper don't be fooled section. So the two major things I'd say don't be fooled on in regards to this vehicle is, one, it's not bad that it looks like a Cadillac SUV. The Mustang Mach-E kind of looks like a Mustang, and I'm totally okay with that. But do keep in mind that the Mustang Mach-E costs less, and overall, with it costing less, I think it's more of a competitor. I think that the Cadillac you're gonna get if you're really into Cadillac, and I think it's gonna actually appeal to less people than the Mach-E. Now the Mach-E, of course, did frustrate a lot of people being called the Mustang Mach-E, and I still feel that that would have been a better release of a product if they would have just called it the Mach-E. However, the styling, you can see that it fits in with a Mustang. So what can you do? obviously out of our hands. What I can say about the Cadillac Lyriq is that it's gorgeous. It is a sharp looking vehicle. However, don't be fooled. Cadillac doesn't seem to be working to produce hundreds of thousands of these, because already with the demand be out there, and this isn't a product that has been advertised all over the place. I don't think that there's a lot of common knowledge about this vehicle, and nonetheless, the website will tell you put in your pre-order now because 2023 is sold out, so put in a pre-order for a 2024. My sources are telling me that we're already, if you order now, you're already at a 2025. So I think that's the big bombshell on this product, is that we've got something that looks and feels pretty decent. I think that some people will be fooled thinking it's a Cadillac that'll be the best machine at absorbing bumps and potholes, but I'd say that's Cadillac 15 years ago, 20 years ago, really most of Cadillac's history. But Cadillac since 2009 has been making a change towards vehicles that are more responsive, that have a sportier feel to them, but you're definitely losing comfort in regards to the suspension. Don't get this thinking this is going to be an amazing pothole eater. It's going to be great in the feel of the interior. It's got a gorgeous interior. The materials are really nice. The outside look, if you're looking for something that still looks like an ICE vehicle, well, you've got a big win there. And if you're looking for an EV that really has a whole new style and a whole new look, well, you're not going to get that out of the Cadillac. And like all my reviews and anytime I'm talking about vehicles or really anything in general in life, there's pros and cons, and when you excel in one area, you're probably going to be losing in another area. Nothing's ever perfect all the way, but I can say that this is looking pretty darn good. The price, when we compare it to a Mach-E, I'm finding is a little high because this is actually producing similar stats to the Mach-E, and we're going to actually have to see if the all-wheel drive version comes actually even close to that of the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, because remember, that does 0 to 60 in about 3.5 seconds. So there'll be more on this. I find it nonetheless an interesting product, and I do appreciate that you've watched my video covering this information. So if you've made it this far, please throw in a comment, just write finisher, and if you want to help the channel out, just hit that like button. And if you want to not miss out on more videos of really all kinds of videos, I tinker with a bit of everything, just hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I wish you all more cars and more power. Take care.